Welcome back to Believe in Jets, a New York Jets podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. My name is Rami Lavi. NFL free agency is officially underway, or at least the tampering period, which is so dumb, this whole thing with the tampering period in the NFL. Oh, now you're allowed to talk to teams when the second the tampering period starts, and this year even before, all of a sudden these contracts are coming out. And by the way, the best part of this is the tampering period started and Twitter is down. So thank you, Elon Musk, for that. Twitter's down today, which is just the perfect day for Twitter to be down for the NFL. Disaster, essentially, for the NFL today. But the only tweets that are coming through, because no one can tweet right now, but I have tweet notifications on for two guys, Adam Schefter and for Ian Rappaport. I also have them on for Shams Charania. Used to be Woj, but now that Woj isn't really reporting on anything, I don't have them on for him. I have them on for Shams instead. I was a Woj guy. Now everyone's just a Shams guy if you're an NBA guy. Okay, not the point. The point is that on the day that Twitter's down, no one can tweet. The only tweets we're getting are the free agents coming in, and you can't even see them. I'm just getting the notifications from Woj, not from Woj, but from Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, which tells you these are scheduled tweets that were scheduled to come out at noon today or right about noon to make you think that these deals didn't happen before because now it's legal to tamper. All of a sudden, they sign these deals immediately and no one can tweet them. So these deals were obviously in and sent in to Rappaport and Schefter long before. So this whole, this game that we play with the tampering period, quote unquote, I think is just to create momentum. It's to create news stories, which the NFL does a great job of this. I give credit to the NFL. Major League Baseball, I wish there was a quote unquote tampering period because then maybe we'd have news that would come out and actually be interesting during baseball free agency. Instead, it's just this slow burn where we have no idea. And all of a sudden, 11 p.m. on a Sunday night, in the middle of Sunday Night Football, Juan Soto signed with the Mets. It's the stupidest thing. Nobody wants to hear that. It's dumb. It's dumb how they do it in Major League Baseball. NFL actually has it right, but let's not pretend oh, it's this big secret. They're not tampering. They're not talking to each other. And then all of a sudden at noon, boom, contract. They just, what are they, lined up talking to each other? It was actually funny. They said that the contract that got done with I forget which quarterback it was, but it was one of the quarterbacks who signed, or the trade maybe with Geno Smith, whoever it was. The contract that was done while he was on vacation. And it's the same thing now. And I think it was one of the big contracts that was signed this weekend. I don't know, and maybe Josh Allen or whatever. One of the big contracts that was handed out. The guy was on vacation because somebody tweeted out a picture of Justin Fields in Dubai. It's like Justin Fields is going to sign a contract while he's in Dubai. Yeah, because guess what? There's Zoom, there's phone calls, there's agents who take care of this stuff, and you don't even have to be there. So the idea that no one's talking to each other, and all of a sudden 1 p.m. or noon comes on Sunday, and boom, everyone starts hammering out these deals. This is just not how it works. It's BS. I mean, we've known about this for a long time that it's absolute BS, but it's still fun to watch. And it's totally being exposed today more than ever because Twitter's down. So I don't even have the list of the free agent signings in front of me. Let me look right now. And it's such a great day for Twitter to be down. I mean, yeah, I'm looking right now and nothing's loading. It's incredible. Twitter's just not loading. The day that you need, maybe the most important day of Twitter is NFL free agency day, maybe NBA free agency day, the tampering period in the NBA. Maybe that's a more important day for Twitter. But of the most important days for Twitter is today. And for some reason, today's the day that Twitter's not working. So we'll get into some of the contracts that I know happened, but they're obviously contracts that are going on with the Jets and speculation, and we'll get into all of that. I probably have to record again after all this is done to recap free agency, but we'll do that in the next couple of days once everything is settled down. For now, obviously, we only have a couple of the signings already in place that we know for sure what happened, and a lot more signings out there that we really don't know what's going to happen yet, and mostly because Twitter's down, not for any other reason. So this will come in throughout the day. And honestly, I'm curious. Now, I know people have this and they subscribe to the podcast, and I appreciate it. And this is probably coming across your podcast feed on YouTube or whatever, if I posted the link on Instagram. But I'm curious how people are listening to this. I always assume I put the links out on social media and that's what helps. But no, people probably just, the people who listen, and the people, maybe I gain one or two more listeners per episode when I put it out on Twitter, but not the point. The point is, I wanted to start this episode because it is a Jets podcast. I wanted to start this episode with a very simple message to Woody Johnson. I have a message to Woody Johnson from all Jets fans. And yes, I can speak on behalf of all Jets fans. Keep doing what you're doing, Woody. You're doing great. Do not change a thing because the vitriol that I got on Twitter when I questioned Woody Johnson last week, when I questioned the Jets moving on from Aaron Rodgers, when I questioned the Jets going after Justin Fields as an option at quarterback, the vitriol I got from Jets fans on Twitter, like, how could you question anything that this organization does? This organization is incredible. They're so well run. Blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? What are you saying? So Woody Johnson, keep failing as an owner. Woody Johnson, keep meddling with them. Just keep meddling with the football decisions like you do and ruining those things. Keep raising season ticket prices. Each of the last 3 years, count them. They started 7-4 and then collapsed and ended the season 7-10. Season ticket price hike for season ticket holders. The next year, Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles 4 snaps in. They raise season ticket prices. And then this year, they had the gall at 2-5 after they fired their head coach to raise season ticket prices again after that Pittsburgh Steelers loss on Sunday Night Football. It's mind-numbing how somebody can defend this, how somebody can defend Woody Johnson, how somebody could defend an organization as terrible as the Jets, and yet these fans out there, and I feel bad for Jets fans, that they're so hungry for some form of success, they're just dying to trust this ownership. These fans are still out there just gobbling it all up, eating it all up, to the point where now I feel like if they don't sign Justin Fields, and we'll get into that a little bit later, people are going to be frustrated. People are going to be like, oh, I can't believe we missed out on Fields. You're going to cry about Justin Fields because you heard he might be linked to your team and all of a sudden that made you excited? How do these fans... Look, nobody in the world, no sports fans, I believe this, no sports fans on earth deserve a winner more than Jets fans do. The way they've suffered. You could talk about the Browns. You could talk about some other bad franchises that have suffered. No one has suffered like Jets fans have suffered. They deserve a winning team more than anyone. And yet they are the ones who are enabling this owner to ensure, to make 100% certain that there won't be a winning franchise, that there won't be a winning team in New York. They are the ones enabling the owner and allowing him to ensure that there won't be ever a winning functional franchise with the Jets. Because you are enabling this guy to continue to make these moves because you eat everything up. And look, I'm not a guy who likes to respond to a team's social media account. I know it's just someone putting out the tweet, the social team, they do a great job. Why should I reply to that person? That person doesn't deserve hate from me. But I can't help myself sometimes. I see a tweet. It's like, oh my God, the feeling when free agency. You're not signing anyone in free agency. The free agents that people are excited about are the guys that you let go. Aaron Rodgers, where Devonta Adams was going to end up was a big story. Hassan Reddick just signed today. That's who people are excited about. Javon Kinlaw, another former Jet, just signed. We'll get into that a little bit later too. But these Jets fans who just every single thing that Woody Johnson does, they blame someone else. They believe in the team beyond all reasonable, logical expectation. And that's why Woody Johnson, you have the autonomy to keep doing anything you want. Raise season ticket prices. Make terrible decisions meddling with the organization. Don't make the right hires. Don't get the right quarterback. Let go of players because they hurt your feelings. Let your kids meddle and decide that they don't want to make a trade because of Madden ratings. Keep doing it all, Woody Johnson, because it's working for you. Your fans are eating it up. They love it. And so while I feel bad for the Jets fans, and I feel like the Jets fans deserve a winner, you bring this on yourselves. I don't understand. What you're yelling at me on Twitter because I called out the owner who is the reason why your franchise is miserable year in and year out. Like every single year, your franchise is miserable. You root for a miserable football team. You get gouged on prices at the stadium. You get your season tickets raised every single year. And I'm the bad guy? Keep doing what you're doing, Woody Johnson, because they're eating it right out of the palm of your hand. You have Jets fans right where you want them, and they're not going anywhere. I'm not going to do that. I just talked to another Jet fan today. His season ticket prices were hiked almost 25%. A 20% price increase after this year. He said it's the third consecutive year they've raised him his season ticket prices, and this year was a 20% increase. I'm sorry, I wouldn't do that. That's why I left. I got rid of my season tickets. I encourage more Jets fans to do that. That's the only way real change is going to happen. But it's never going to happen because these Jets fans are allowing this owner to behave this way. They're encouraging this behavior from the owner. And they keep buying into it. They keep reading into it. And I'm somehow the bad guy for calling it out. I want the Jets to be good. That's the difference between you and me. I hope I'm wrong. These Jets fans, oh, it's going to be Justin Fields. Oh, yeah, Justin Fields. He played together with Garrett Wilson. Justin Fields, are you kidding me? He stunk everywhere he went in the NFL. How is Justin Fields a good option for the Jets at quarterback? The Jets aren't the franchise that saves quarterbacks who previously failed elsewhere. The Jets are the team that ruins quarterbacks who have the potential, and then they get saved by other functional franchises, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold. The Jets take Hall of Famers, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, and turn them into terrible quarterbacks in New York. Not the team that takes the failed experiment in Chicago, in Pittsburgh, failed in both places, had multiple opportunities in both places. Oh, and we're going to resurrect his career in New York because that's what the Jets are known for, resurrecting failed quarterbacks' careers. How is Justin Fields a good option? It makes no sense to me. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-numbing that there's a fan base that can convince themselves of anything. And like, if I was a Jet fan, I would turn this podcast off right now. Honestly. So I want to get into other stuff because if I was listening to this podcast as a Jets fan, and that's who listens to this podcast, I'd turn it off. I would say like you're scolding me, and my hope is that social media and that the people I see in the comments on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter are just fake people that I don't know are delusional and eternally optimistic. I'm like kind of jealous of them. Ignorance is bliss, right? But those people shouldn't be listening right now because I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the way it is. I'm not giving you an opinion. People came after me like I was giving them some opinion on Woody Johnson. I wasn't giving you an opinion. This is fact. And yet you're yelling at me for something that's not even my opinion. It's not a take. People say, oh, great take. Oh, terrible opinion. It's not a take. It's not an opinion. This owner has run this franchise into the ground for 25 years. Here is the evidence. But no, I'm the bad guy for saying it. So he's going to keep doing what he's doing. And guess what? The Jets will never win. So those Jets fans who want the Jets to win, apparently, I'm the one who actually wants them to win. The Jets fans who want the Jets to win, if you're still rooting and defending Woody Johnson, you don't want the team to win. Because that's going to allow him to continue to act the same way and continue the same disruptive or destructive behavior. All right. So there's this weird Jordan Travis story. And the Jordan Travis story is just mind-boggling to me. Is his agent comes out and says he was mistreated. And if like, are you shocked by this? The staff had no idea what was going on. Once they fired Saleh, and probably even before that, there was no rhyme or reason for anything they did. So of course they mishandled a guy coming back from injury. Like this just shows you it's just another step of how dysfunctional it was in the Jets organization last year. And I hope they're taking steps towards cleaning it up. I'm just not confident. So Davante Adams, though, he gets cut by the Jets. And this is where I don't understand also a lot of the Jets fans. So with him, at least they save some money on the cap. With Rodgers, they're not really saving any money on the cap. Why would you defend them cutting guys that make your team better? Like the Jets have to fill a wide receiver position now. Like you have Garrett Wilson and that's it. Malachi Corley and who else? Xavier Gibson, who stinks. So it's not like, oh, great. We got rid of Davante Adams. Get that mess out of here. He's actually good. So I'm like, if you bring in a young quarterback, let's say you brought in a Justin Fields and that's the guy you believe in, why wouldn't you want a Davante Adams to be there, like a great wide receiver who could play with them? Well, because he's getting paid a lot of money, and you're already paying Aaron Rodgers to not play for you. So I understand it complicates things cap wise, but this celebration that we saw, oh, Davante Adams was cut by the Jets, and then immediately he gets picked up by the Rams. And by the way, don't look now, the LA Rams have the best wide receiver duo and the best quarterback in the NFC. So you could tell me that Jaden Daniels is better. Okay, maybe he had one really good year as his rookie year. We'll see what happens now. Okay, let's see the next step. CJ Stroud took a step back his second year. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be really good, but don't tell me he's better than Matthew Stafford yet. We've seen flashes from Jordan Love. We've seen flashes from Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts. But to me right now, the clear number one quarterback in the NFC is Matthew Stafford still. And now you have the best wide receiver duo in the NFC. Cooper Kupp is a great player, but he was starting to get old. He broke down. I had him in fantasy at the end of the year. He stunk. But you put Puka Nacua next to Davante Adams. Davante Adams, say what you want about the Jets. He didn't translate to wins. He put up numbers with the Jets. He was still incredible. His release at the line of scrimmage on a 2-year deal, he's going to be great for them for the next couple of years. So I love what they did to go get him. And you bring back Stafford. That defense is young and talented. To me, the Rams are one of the favorites in the NFC. And to think they went to from trading all those assets to Detroit to get Matthew Stafford. They win the Super Bowl in year one. And it's like, well, they sold their soul first Super Bowl. They're not going to be back for a while. They're going to stink. And then the turnaround. Yes, there were a couple of down years, but the turnaround last year, they were the closest team of all the teams that played against Philly in the postseason. The closest team to beating Philly was the Rams. If they beat Philly, like that's fact. That's just the truth. The Rams were the closest team. And now that young defense can get better. They can build on it, get more pieces added to that defense, and this offense is set, right? The running backs that you have, along with Stafford and Kupp and Nacua, not Kupp, but Devontae Adams and Nacua. I mean, that is a loaded team. That is a stacked team. To me, yes, Washington's still really good. Detroit should be better with all the injuries they had last year. They should be better. They should be back from that. Obviously, Philly's the defending champions. But the Rams have got to be the second favorite to me in the NFC. I, after Philly, it's the Rams, and they were the closest team to beating them last year. This Rams team is probably good odds for a Super Bowl. I should look that up right now, actually. And it would be a good time to remind you, since we're talking Super Bowl odds. Is Twitter back? No, it's still loading. Let's look up NFL Super Bowl odds. And while I look up the Super Bowl odds, I'll tell you that I'm looking it up on BetOnline because BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA to college basketball to NHL and UFC. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. You know what time it is? It's March. That's what time of year it is. March Madness is coming up, so that's huge. If you're a BetOnline person, you want to get in all your bets. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game and every play and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here, so let's get you those Super Bowl odds right now. The Eagles are plus 650. The Chiefs are plus 700, which I already placed money on. The Los Angeles Rams are all the way down at plus 2,600. They are and I hate doing this, is the Mike Francesa thing, the counting on air. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th best odds to win the Super Bowl. That is great value. If I'm you, I'm going right now. I'm betting the Rams to win the Super Bowl. 2,600. Like, that is crazy. If you bet them to make the Super Bowl, is that here? I don't see that here. But still, 2,600. Get in on them now because that's only going to those odds are going to go down lower because this team is really good. And I think they're capable of winning a Super Bowl this year. They have a 2-year window now. Stafford for 2 years. Nacua and Devontae Adams for 2 years. I love this window right now for the LA Rams. A couple other things, a couple other signings we saw. We saw that the Jets, and this is a positive thing, the Jets, one of the first things that Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn talked about, they kept talking about in their press conferences, was keeping their own players. The number one priority is going to be keeping their own, and the Jets signed their own free agent, signed Jamien Sherwood to a contract that I thought seemed like a lot. Now the cap is going up. It's 3 years, 45 million, 15 million a year, and very deserving. I think Jamien Sherwood playing next to Quincy Williams, that was one of the best linebacker duos. After CJ Mosley went down, he stepped up big time for the Jets. So I love that they're bringing back Jamien Sherwood. It's a huge deal for the Jets. If you ask me, it is an awesome deal for the Jets. And then Javon Kinlaw goes and gets 3 years, 45 from Washington. This dude is good for at least one penalty a game. So if Javon Kinlaw is worth 345, I would say that Jamien Sherwood, sure, he's an off-ball linebacker and one's a defensive tackle. Jamien Sherwood is a significantly better player than Javon Kinlaw. Now, I know Javon Kinlaw was a good player in San Francisco, comes to the Jets, and all of a sudden he falls apart. Maybe it's a Jets thing. Maybe he goes to Washington and he's great in Washington. They clearly need some help on the defensive front. We saw that in the NFC Championship game. And even the week before against Detroit, we saw that they really can't keep up with the best offensive and defensive lines, especially on the defensive side. But I like if he's worth 345, Jamien Sherwood is a steal at 345. This guy loaded up on tackles. He made huge plays for this team. He's a big hitting guy. He's young. And now you have you have that middle of the defense set with your two linebackers, your two off-ball linebackers with Quincy and Kinlaw, maybe the best off-ball linebacker duo in the NFL. Obviously, we're not talking about the guys in San Francisco, but those are the best. Fred Warner, and Trey Greenlaw. That's probably the best duo in the league of off-ball linebackers. When Patrick Queen was together with Roquan Smith in Baltimore. That was the best off ball linebacker duo in the NFL. But I really like what Jamie Sherwood brings to the Jets, and him just again, it's signing your own, it's continuity, it's staying true to your promise, Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn, that we are going to keep our own. It makes you feel more confident about guys like Sauce Gardner. It makes you feel more confident about guys like Garrett Wilson, that they're going to come back, Jermaine Johnson, that these guys will be taken care of. And by the way, Sauce Gardner, another guy, just the latest Jet to tweet out his approval for Aaron Rodgers. Greg Giannotti on the morning show on WFAN did make an interesting point. He's like, did you notice all the guys who talk really highly of Aaron Rodgers are guys who play on the defensive side? None of the guys on the offensive side, and even now Devontae Adams went and decided, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll play with Matthew Stafford instead of playing with Aaron Rodgers. So just an interesting situation there. But he did tweet out, Sauce Gardner tweeted out, man, if Aaron Rodgers goes to Minnesota, he's going to put up some crazy numbers. You might set every NFL stat for a quarterback. Now, first of all, it would be hilarious if Aaron Rodgers went to Minnesota. That would be so freaking funny. If you just followed the Brett Favre path all the way and just went to Minnesota also, like I wouldn't stop laughing. That is the funniest thing he could possibly do. But don't you think he'd be really good with Hawkinson and Addison and Justin Jefferson? Like he's good. If Sam Darnold won 13 games with that team, I think Aaron Rodgers could probably win 16 games with that team. That would be insane what they'd be able to do in Minnesota. He'd be playing indoors. He wouldn't have to worry about the weather except when he goes to Lambeau and Chicago a couple times a year. That would be an awesome landing spot for Aaron Rodgers. I truly believe that. Now, we're hearing a lot about Pittsburgh. And here's the thing. I actually think Pittsburgh's going to end up with Justin Fields, and they're going to re-sign him. And that's the best thing for Justin Fields. I think there's a little bit of a cat and mouse game going on right now with the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers, and Justin Fields. So I think the Steelers want to sign Justin Fields. They know, obviously, that Aaron Rodgers is not going back to the Jets, although Aaron Rodgers is a June 1st designation. And just a real quick aside on that, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be on the Jets next season. We know that already. But at time of OTAs this year, mandatory OTAs, remember when we all made the big deal about Aaron Rodgers missing mandatory OTAs last year? Well, this year, he'll still technically be a Jet during mandatory OTAs. So while he's not going to be a Jet this season, Aaron Rodgers has a chance to do the funniest thing possible and just show up to mandatory OTAs this year for the Jets. I know he won't, but it would be hilarious, I think, at least. Anyway, he'd be the best quarterback there by far. Who are the other options? Oh, we'll get to that. I do have my list of top 5 quarterback targets for the Jets this offseason. All right, but let's recap. I do think that the Steelers want Justin Fields. Get back on track here. I think the Steelers want Justin Fields, and they want to lower the price. So they're saying, we're super interested in Aaron Rodgers, Justin. You can leave. Go ahead. We'll take Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, Justin Fields wants to go back to the Steelers because he knows that's the best possible situation for him. Is it a better situation for him in New York with no wide receivers, or does he want to go play with Pickens? And now they just traded for Metcalf, and in a system he's already familiar with a winning coach and Mike Tomlin who wins every year. Of course he wants to go back to Pittsburgh. But he's like, hey, give me some more money. I'm worth a little bit more than what you're offering. I could go to the Jets. They're offering me more money. Now, ultimately, we've seen that money talks, and he's probably going to go to wherever the most money is. And if the Jets do offer him more money to leave, and they'd have to offer him more money than Pittsburgh to get him out of Pittsburgh, then maybe he goes to Pittsburgh. We saw that with Myles Garrett. Oh, I want to win. You know what? I don't want to win that much anymore. I'll take $40 million a year. That's better than winning. Money is the number one priority. If you're a sports fan and you don't realize this yet, number one is money amongst all things for athletes. And now they don't want you to think that. That's why guys like Juan Soto come out and say, there were so many other factors. There were teams that offered me more money. It's not true. You took the most money. I don't know what the shame is in saying, I took the most money. I took the biggest contract. You didn't want to be a Met. You wanted to be a Met, sure. But if someone offered you more, you would have gone to Pittsburgh if they would have offered you more. You would have gone to the Miami Marlins if they offered you more. So, like, I don't understand. Like, great. Myles Garrett's not going to tell you, hey, someone else offered me more money. He got offered the most money, so he stayed. He didn't care about winning. I look, these guys care about winning a lot. It's probably number 2 on the list. It's number 1, 50 feet of crap, and then number 2 is winning. So number 1, though, is money. Money, 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 and then winning. Distant second. That's just how it is for these guys. That's how it is for Myles Garrett. That's how it is for Juan Soto or any of your other favorite athletes. The sooner you realize that, it actually makes watching sports a little bit different. At least you can, like, live with it. That's why when you look at a guy like Jalen Brunson, who took less money twice so that the team could build a winning team around him. That's insane. He keeps taking less money. When you look at a guy like Tom Brady who kept taking less money so that he could win, that's insane. You have to appreciate that so much more. But the Jalen Brunsons of the world, the Tom Brady's of the world are so few and far between. That's the 0.0000001% of everyone. Those are two guys I listed. There's not many more you can list who take less money so that the team can win. It just doesn't exist. Everyone wants money. Winning is a distant second. So I think Justin Fields is going to end up staying with Pittsburgh. That's just my personal opinion. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have to choose between the Giants and Minnesota, which are not great options. Then I would obviously choose Minnesota. Now, I don't understand the Sam Darnold Pittsburgh thing, because why would you trade away Geno Smith, trade away your best wide receiver, and then bring in Sam Darnold? Like, how's he going to be successful there? He was successful in Minnesota because everything was perfect around him. I'm not sure how he would be successful there. But I do like what Vegas is doing. Why not bring in Geno Smith? I still think they're going to try and get a quarterback in the draft. Anyway, coming up, I'm going to tell you my top five, my five favorite options for a Jets quarterback in 2025. I'll give you that list after a quick break. All right, coming back, I'll give you my top five quarterback options for the New York Jets in 2025. My number one option is Cam Ward. The reason he's the number one option is because he's the best quarterback in the draft. You draft a young quarterback, then everything else goes out the window. You restart the rookie clock. You see how he can develop. Is he the best quarterback prospect we've seen in the last 15 years? Definitely not. But at least it's the number one option this year. It's a rookie quarterback. We could start over. I know we've gotten it wrong 1,000 times, but that is the best option, is to draft a rookie quarterback and to see how he develops. And that's why my number two option is Shedeur Sanders. Again, the same thing. I have him lower than Cam Ward because I don't think he's as good of a prospect. But still, you might not even have to trade up to get Shedeur Sanders. It's time. Draft the rookie quarterback, reset the franchise. If you're truly doing a reset, if getting rid of Aaron Rodgers is all about resetting the franchise and starting from scratch and trying to build a culture, build a winner from day one, then go get one of these rookie quarterbacks. My number three option, a guy I just mentioned, is Sam Darnold. Now, Sam Darnold, I don't think he's ever going to come back to New York. Why would he come back to the place where he saw it goes, come back to the Jets? He has a terrible experience with this organization. But he's still young enough, and because of the way he closed out the season, the end of the year, the last couple of games, his number will be cheap enough that if you bring him to the Jets, I think they have more talent there now. I know they have more talent and a better offensive line now than he did his first 3 years with the Jets. This would be a better situation for him than he had previously with the Jets, and maybe he could be the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. I still think he could be that. And then you could still build with other pieces in the draft. Go get him Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State in the draft. Go make other decisions. Go get a defensive tackle in the draft. Address other positions in the draft. You're not wasting, quote unquote, a draft pick on a quarterback. You could sign Sam Darnold for, I don't know, $15-20 million a year over 4 years. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You could make it kind of a Daniel Jones type deal where you give him an opt out after 2 years where you can get out of the contract. I think that's a great option for the Jets. I think it's the number three option. Number four, excuse me, the number four option for the Jets at quarterback is Tyrod Taylor. And with all those other options, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Sam Darnold, Tyrod Taylor is going to be the backup quarterback. The number four option for me is just go into the year with Tyrod Taylor, maybe Jordan Travis. I'm not sure who the other option is, but whoever the backup quarterback is to Tyrod Taylor, and Tyrod's the starter. And now if Tyrod's the starter, he's not going to play more than, 10 games max. He never starts more than 10 games. He always gets hurt. So if Tyrod Taylor is your starting quarterback, essentially you're tanking. You're telling me that we're trying to get Arch Manning in the draft. We're trying to get whoever the next big quarterback is next year coming out of college. We're good on this year. We're going to tank. Now, I don't really love that option because I think they're too talented to tank. I think they're too talented, but maybe if they tank and they really do get a top pick and they're able to get a quarterback in next year's draft, then maybe at that point you have the full team around them. You give contracts to Garrett and Sauce and those guys, and then you get the quarterback on the rookie deal starting next year. It extends your window a little bit. And if that rookie quarterback is great right away, which happens very rarely, but if he's great in the first couple of years, you still do have a winning window. So that's my number four option. It would suck this year because that means winning, 2 games this year, which is probably the likeliest outcome. And number five, and the worst option for me, is Justin Fields. And if you're going to go for Justin Fields, like I said earlier, we're not the quarterback healers in New York. The Jets don't save failed quarterbacks. They ruin quarterbacks. If you're going to go with Justin Fields, you might as well go with Marcus Mariota or with Carson Wentz. Sure, those guys are a little bit older, although Wentz is probably closer in age to Justin Fields. They're failed quarterbacks. They're not. We know what they are. Stop pretending Justin Fields is something he's not. I put him exactly on the same level as Marcus Mariota and Carson Wentz. Failed quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks. What's the likeliest outcome? Probably the bottom three. I don't think Sam is coming here. I don't think they're going to be drafting high enough to get Shador or Cam. What do we see from Jordan Travis? I don't even know. I mean, it sounds like he's hurt more than more than we thought. It's not a great option there. Before we close out, I want to talk about the Yankees because this has just been a disaster with the Yankees, and then I'm going to tie the Yankees and Jets together. So wait till the end, get through some of my negativity because when I tie it all together in the end, I think it'll make sense. The New York Yankees window to win a championship in the Aaron Judge era is officially closed. This organization has foobarred this situation so poorly. And I talked about this last year. I warned them about this last year. Last year, 2024 was the year to go for it. When you had Aaron Judge in his prime, when you had Garrett Cole in his prime, and you had a prime young Juan Soto. And I said it last year. Who knows it? He might only be here for 1 year. And that ended up being the case. You have to go all in. You have to leave no doubt. At the trade deadline, instead of trading for Jazz Chisholm to play out of position at third base, you go all in. You don't start Alex Verdugo in left field. You go get another bat. You go get another arm in the back end of the bullpen. What if there was someone else? What if you had Tanner Scott coming in instead of Nestor Cortez to face Freddie Freeman in the World Series? Maybe you win the World Series. If you have a little more hitting in the World Series, maybe you win the World Series. And look, a lot of this is on Aaron Judge for not performing in the postseasons. But now Luis Gil is hurt, and you should have traded him, by the way, for Kyle Tucker. But Luis Gil's hurt. Garrett Cole's now out for the year. Garrett Cole's career as a Yankee is over. Maybe he'll come back on the back end of his career and he'll look like some semblance of Garrett Cole. He's never going to be the same pitcher again. He's 36 years old. He's getting Tommy John surgery. That's a year and a half. He's going to come back at 38 and all of a sudden be a decent starting pitcher in this league. No, it's over for Garrett Cole. His career as a Yankee is over. The ace Garrett Cole as a Yankee is done. That's why you have to win on the front end of these pitching contracts. Aaron Judge, by the time Cole gets back, is going to be 36 years old himself. And then what are you expecting out of him? The window is closed. So they half-assed it last year. They said, oh, we'll win the AL because the AL's weak. And then it's a crapshoot in the World Series. They got smoked by the Dodgers in the World Series because they weren't willing to make the moves the Dodgers are. And already they're telling you right now, Hal said he's not willing to spend another penny unless he can trade away the contract of Marcus Stroman. And I don't blame Hal Steinbrenner. I shouldn't have to spend more than $305 million. You shouldn't. But this roster was so terribly constructed by Brian Cashman. All the contracts they're paying are so terrible that you're now hamstrung with this salary, with this payroll, and you can't do anything else because you're paying $305 million already. Now, cry me a river, Hal Steinbrenner, at the same time, because guess what? You have all the money in the world. You're now spending a lower percentage of your income than you ever have in the history of the Yankees. They're spending the lowest percentage of what they bring in. So don't tell me that, oh, cry me a river about being poor. The Yankees spending is the lowest percentage of their revenue ever. But they don't want to spend more, and I can't blame them. So they don't have a third baseman. They don't have a DH. Stanton's out for the year probably. They're missing their top two pitchers, or at least their first starter and their third starter. They don't have a backup catcher. They don't have a left fielder, by the way. Let's not pretend that left field is all great. Their shortstop, their prime young shortstop that's supposed to be great, hasn't shown anything at the major league level yet. Jazz Chisholm is hit or miss every single year. They have an old man at first base in Paul Goldschmidt. This season, the Yankees are going to miss the playoffs, and I don't see how it gets better from here. They're not willing to improve the roster. They don't want to get better. They're not willing to pay for more, and the team is not good enough. The Yankees will miss the playoffs this season. They won't win a championship in the Judge era, and it's because they were never willing to go all in. The time to go all in was 2018 through 2024. They never did it. They went with half measures. They hugged prospects, weren't willing to trade them when they were valuable, weren't willing to call them up when maybe they had something to offer. And they never went all in on that one last piece, the two last pieces that they needed. And now they have holes all over the place, a $305 million payroll, and a terrible roster to show for it. This is a 75-win team at best. This Yankee team is going to fail epically, and they now close the window on the Judge era and the chance to win a championship in it, all because they didn't go all in 2024. That was the year to do it, and they failed. And I don't see a way out of this for the Yankees. I don't see how you're going to get out from under all these contracts and still improve the roster in all the places it needs to be improved. Maybe somehow you can trade away some of these contracts. I'm not sure what you do this year. They need a major reset this season because you already know they're not going to spend more. They're not going to trade away prospects or spend more money to improve the roster in 2025. So if they're not going to try to win in 2025, then punt on the season. But they can't do that either. Oh, no, we're not going to punt on the season. They're going to stand pat this year. Who knows what Luke Weaver is going to be? Luke Weaver was a great closer. His entire career before this, he was terrible. So if he had a half a season of being a great closer, you think he's just going to come back and be a great closer again? It's over. The Aaron Judge era is over. There is no championship window for Aaron Judge and Garrett Cole as New York Yankees. It's done. It's buried. And the 2025 season has ended before it started. Now, I will give the sliver of optimism because this has been one of the most negative podcasts I've done. Just 38 minutes of just negativity. And I feel bad. I don't want to be that Mr. Negative about everything. But I will say, and this goes for the Yankees, this goes for the Jets. The seasons when the expectations are lowest, because I truly believe the expectations haven't been lower for the Yankees since the 2017 season. This is the lowest season of expectations coming into a year that I can remember for the New York Yankees. But we heard it from Mets fans. The Mets fans were like, oh, 2024, best Mets season ever. They lost in the NLCS. Why is it the best season ever? Because they had no expectations. The way they stumbled into the season, the way they started. When you have no expectations and you win, that is the most fun season ever. The Jets have no expectations. They're the lowest expectations for a Jets team in a few years. Now, there's always low expectations for the Jets. But probably going into that year where they started 7-4, there were some expectations. You thought Zach Wilson would take another step. They had these young players on their roster. Aaron Rodgers comes in the next year. There's high expectations. Aaron Rodgers comes back from the injury the following year. There's high expectations. Now, I talked about earlier how Jets fans always have high expectations, and that's more on the fans than anything else. That's your fault. You shouldn't have high expectations. This should be the lowest expectations for the Jets in about 4 or 5 years. This is the lowest expectation for the Yankees in about 7 years, 8 years. But if somehow, some way, and the American League is really weak, so I could see this happening. And the NFL, anything can happen any given Sunday, right? If somehow, some way, we get contributions from unexpected places, if all of a sudden Anthony Volpe turns into a superstar, if all of a sudden Jason Dominguez is the guy he's hyped up to be, if all of a sudden Clark Schmidt turns into a real guy, Luke Weaver's for real, all these contributions start coming in at the same time, it has the chance to be one of the most fun seasons ever. Because when it's unexpected and guys step up and play better than they're expected and play better than their expectations and their capabilities even, they outperform. Those are the most fun seasons. So while I don't think this Yankee season is going anywhere, like I said, I think this is a 75 win team the way they are constructed right now. Still, if they somehow, even if they sneak into a wild card, it'll be one of the most fun Yankee seasons, one of the most memorable Yankee seasons. Same thing goes for the Jets. If they get the 7th seed, that's it. The last seed in the playoffs. They go 10-7, 9-8, but they somehow sneak into the playoffs. It'll be one of the most fun Jet seasons ever. I can guarantee that. The bar is set really low right now. Doesn't take a lot to clear, but if they do, it'll be one of the most fun seasons ever. That's my little sliver of hope. That's my positive spin on all this. So till next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Appreciate everyone for listening. Rami Lavi. Follow me on all social platforms. Twitter's down, but Rami.Lavi. On Instagram, Rami_Lavi. TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Rami Lavi Podcast. This is the Believe in Jets podcast. Until next time, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Appreciate you all for listening. See ya.